Here at British Esports, we are dedicated to making sure that the esports industry is welcoming of all. Part of this is to celebrate the works and achievements of various different people within the industry. Recently, I spoke to Alexander Nathan, the founder of Permastunned Gaming, about how he created his organisation and uses it to promote the inclusion of disabled people within esports. So firstly, Nathan, what's Permastunned all about?
Challenging the status quo in esports. I noticed that there are not many people with disabilities in esports, and roughly 2 years ago I started wondering why. Because with the right technology, it's not super expensive for a person with a disability to get into gaming and to get good. And that compared to the amount of money you need to spend for certain para sports that are out there, for example, wheelchair hockey, you need a special wheelchair and that's really expensive. So esports is relatively accessible. So why aren't there more people with a disability in the top of esports?
How many people have you got involved with the organisation?
About 30, I would say. We are not a professional clan. We are very amateur based, and everybody that is in Permastunned Gaming either is sometimes a little passive. They do things on their own speed, and I want to keep it that way because we don't have any expectations or payment coming in, so it's all voluntary, and that's so it's very important for me that I don't pressure people into doing anything. But whenever they come to me and say, I want to up my game, I want to get to the next level, or I need help with something, that's what I want to do. I want to help them. And if they say, I need a sponsor, I'll try and figure things out. I haven't managed to attract any sponsors yet, but I try to give them publicity when possible, exposure, try to come up with little projects like community game night. We had briefly a merchandise lineup where we sold some t-shirts and hoodies with our logo on it. And in general, I try to retweet when they go onto a stream, and so that's basically what I'm trying to add to give my members.
What titles do you and your team enjoy playing the most?
For myself, I go to Dota. Lately, I've been playing a lot of Magic the Gathering Arena. I also enjoy Counter-Strike. And for casually, I like Minecraft and sometimes clicker games. Permastunned Gaming in general, I think our biggest group are first-person shooters. Counter-Strike team, Call of Duty, those two titles I think are the largest. And then we have Dota, League of Legends. Also, I forgot Valorant. We have also a branch for fighting games. Tekken is a big one. Soul Calibur. Yeah, those two titles, and Street Fighter.
What were your initial intentions for when you started out with Permastunned?
I never thought when I started Permastunned Gaming that it would develop into this, because it was really just meant to be, okay, I do want to take 5 people with disabilities all the way to the top, but in Dota, but it just snowballed out of control, basically, where in the end everybody came to me as like, can we make a Counter-Strike team, or Overwatch, or what about this game, that game? And I said, just yes, let's do it. And in the end, in the start, I worked myself into almost what's it called? A burnout, because I woke up at 8 o'clock in the morning and went to bed at 1 o'clock at night because I was constantly trying to recruit new people because somebody came to me and said, can we start a team in this? And then, of course, they had no idea that how much work goes into finding people for a team, especially if in an ecosystem where there aren't many people who believe in themselves yet because there are no examples or no role models to get people to think of themselves of being a potential role model, to pave the path to fight the status quo. It takes not just a person who is capable in gaming, but also with a certain mindset that they really want to change the world. So we're really always looking for the needle in the haystack. And so when I almost worked myself to the bone, I realized I had to take more of a overseeing position instead, and I gave out recruiting roles, or I call them management roles, to specific people who are really showing interest in the game, so that they a little bit responsibility to build what they were craving for themselves, and of course to lessen the workload for myself.
So there's a common misconception that all disabled gamers require adaptive equipment to be able to play. What are your thoughts on this?
I was born with a muscle illness, but right now I don't use any special equipment either. And I don't think that should disqualify you as a quote-unquote disabled gamer. You're disabled, you're a gamer. That's how it works. For example, in Permastunned Gaming, we have someone who is mute, and she doesn't use special equipment, but it is a disability in the sense that she wouldn't be able to communicate with people on her team while she's playing, or uses special software to communicate, something like that. In our Dota 2 team, we have someone who's below the knee amputee. He has a prosthetic and can function properly in society, but it's still a disability. Many people with disabilities, they live off government benefits, so they're on a tight budget anyway. Then, as I said earlier, it's more accessible because it's cheaper. That actually doesn't add up for many people with disabilities. They still need the extra funding.
Do you feel that disabled people are represented well enough within the industry?
When I got into this, into esports, I was into esports before I started Permastunned Gaming. But when I did found Permastunned Gaming, I learned so much more about the esports community, about disability in general, about the technologies that are out there, but also about the ongoing struggle, and that it's not just overcoming your own disability, but in a sense also the community needs to change, and also organizations need to take people with disabilities into account. One of the key problems I notice is that there is no career path. Nowadays, normal person would say, okay, I want to get into esports. I need a computer, I need to rank up in the game, then I need to participate in some online leagues to prove myself worthy of an organization. And then I go to a different league, which is higher skills. And then eventually maybe a professional team will pick me up. But this doesn't work, because these online leagues and also sometimes LAN tournaments, they have quite restrictive rules regarding equipment. And for example, with Counter-Strike, we have stumbled upon people with difficulties to participate in in the Faceit League, because they prohibit joysticks. They say you can install third-party programs on these joysticks, which allow you to cheat in the game. So once that barrier is somewhat lifted, we'll see more people with disabilities have the opportunity to prove themselves. In the EU, they are reluctant to acknowledge esports as a sport because of this this ownership issue. Nobody owns chess, nobody owns soccer, but games, they are owned. And if you look at Nintendo, they are very protective about their own brand. So you get a lot of you can organize a tournament, and you cannot organize a tournament. And that's the kind of power that prevents it to become recognized as a sport. Which, in addition to that sucking, being recognized as a sport would free funding for people with disabilities to get help buying equipment. So we need to do something also in the political sphere.
So what struggles have you come across within gaming that have prevented you from doing specific things with Permastunned?
One of the gripes I have with Magic the Gathering Arena, for example, is I would love to do or organize my own tournaments, but the game itself is not set up in such a way that it allows for easy recording. You would have to ask every player to record their screen, and then you record their screens at the same time, so it's very heavy on your own computer and streaming setup. Whereas with Counter-Strike, they have a very beautiful built-in spectator mode, and everything is set up in such a way that the amateur person can organize their own tournaments. And that's also one of the key features which I think is necessary for a game to become an esports. That it's not centralized by one organizer, but that everybody can organize their own tournaments. Which would also benefit people with disabilities, so that we can organize our own tournaments with our own rules.
And finally, where would you like to see Permastunned go in the future?
My God, I mean, if I may dream, I would like to take my Counter-Strike team to the next level. And other people in my organization too, of course. But right now I see my Counter-Strike team to be to have potential to become sponsored. They've already recently proven themselves playing against a veteran team from Ukraine. I don't know if you're aware of the Ukrainian esports scene, that in Ukraine, esports was recognized as a sport. And with that, they were able to build a very inclusive esports scene. And from that, the Kiev Strikers, I don't know what they will call it anymore, but it's a veteran team, and I believe they are all ex-military veterans with disabilities. They formed a Counter-Strike team, and we did an exhibition match on Twitch against them. And it was very fun, except it was a little one-sided. We really stomped them, unfortunately. But it's to be expected, because they did not have as much experience competing, and all the Permastunned Gaming Counter-Strike players, they're 10-year veterans and level 10 Faceit, and so they're really good, and they can hold their ground even in a normal scene, the amateur scene. So I'm confident that with a little bit of sponsorship, they could get even further. And I wouldn't even be mad if they all left Permastunned Gaming to become part of a actually paying organization, I would be really happy for them, because it's also such a great opportunity to show that people with a disability are just as good as anybody else.
If you would like to learn more about Permastunned and the amazing work they are doing within esports, you can check them out and all their activities on twitter.com/permastunnedg.